Trump's success has caused immediate volatility in the markets. Equity prices sold off around 5% as soon as it became clear that he was likely to beat Hillary Clinton to the White House. And then when Trump started speaking and when people recovered their thoughts, the markets picked up. I think we're going to see a lot of volatility, but I don't think necessarily we're going to see a huge hit to business earnings in the States or elsewhere. They've been under a little bit of pressure recently. They've not been growing as much as they have in the past, but they're reasonable. They're reasonable, and fundamentals are reasonable. What Trump did say is that he's going to push money into infrastructure. Now that's clever, because getting money into infrastructure can divert a lot of attention away from the promises he's made that he will not be able to fulfill, like the wall between the US and Mexico is not going to happen. But other infrastructure projects are sensible, and it's a fact that Americans' infrastructure is creaking, as it is in the UK. So I think what we may start to see in the next year is almost as monetary policy, keeping interest rates down, central banks buying up bonds to keep the long interest rate down, comes to an end in terms of its ability to make changes. We see governments, both sides of the Atlantic, and Theresa May has hinted at this, going back to fiscal policy. In other words, we stop being monetarist in our policies and we go back to good old Keynes, who says that, you know, when your economy is flat, do something, anything, to get it going again. And as it's cheap to borrow at the moment, and we do need improvements in infrastructure, and the Americans need it, it makes sense for governments to take on these projects. However, bearing in mind that unemployment is already quite low, in the UK below 5%, in the US below 5%, in Germany below 5%, there's not significant amounts of spare capacity. So if the government start to increase demand for goods and services because of their own activities in boosting infrastructure, then it's likely to prove inflationary. And I think in 2 or 3 years' time, we may look back to 2016 as the end of the bull market in bonds, and that interest rates may go up much quicker than anybody could ever anticipate, which tends to be the end of bull markets. They don't just whimper out, they slow down and then they end very quickly. If that's the case, then holders of long-dated bonds, either treasuries or gilts, may get burnt quite nastily within the next 6 months or so. We are very mindful of that, which is why we've been holding shorter dated bonds that will not be so affected if interest rates jump up suddenly.